Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to get in. Good morning, Brittany's Live. Welcome in. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. The children are now awake, so you may hear them in the background, but that's just mom life. So hopefully they don't get too loud. How is your morning going today, Brittany's Life? While we're waiting, just maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, everyone let me know where you're watching from. This is my first YouTube live, so bear with me. Good morning, Melissa. Good, glad to hear that. My morning's going well. Kind of chill this morning, but a lot to do on my to-do list today. Alabama, nice, welcome. All right, guys, so we're gonna get started. Florida, we are in the same state. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we are doing nurse shift report Q&A. So basically, if you don't know, I'm Venessa, also known as Momma Nurse. I am a registered nurse of 8 years. I'm currently a trauma surgical ICU nurse, and I am travel nursing as well. I am currently back home in my home state doing local travel contracts. And I always felt like in nursing school, they didn't talk about nurse shift report as much as they should. It's something that we do day in and day out at the beginning and the end of our shift, whether we're giving report or receiving report. They don't talk about it enough in school. So I decided to go ahead and create a nurse shift report coaching. That way I can help educate and teach people to give nurse shift report with confidence. Along with that, I do have my nurse brain available on the mommanurseshop.com. So if you need something to help you receive report, please feel free to check that out. And if you would like one-on-one coaching, you can head over to my link tree. I'll leave it down below in order for you to be able to get nurse shift report coaching. So basically, over the last few weeks, we were talking about all the topics and subjects that you want to address during nurse shift report. Some of the main things that the oncoming nurse may be looking for, may be expecting. So if you've missed out on any of those videos, make sure you check out either my shorts or over on IG. I have a lot of reels in regards to those topics. So let's get started with the Q&A. If you guys have any questions that you want to drop below, please feel free to do so and we'll answer them as we go. So the first question I got is, what is the key to having nurse shift report confidence? Basically, the key is just talking about your patient. You were with your patient for 12 hours. You know everything about them, hopefully. So you just want to give that information to the oncoming shift. That's going to give you the confidence. You've worked with them, you've seen them, you know all of the updates from the doctors and anybody else that's on the team, so you can give that information with confidence. The second question that I got is, am I required to give ventilator settings in report? So as an ICU nurse, you do want to give ventilator settings. Ventilator settings gives the oncoming shift a baseline of what to expect respiratory wise. If you have a patient who's on 100% oxygen or 100% FiO2, you know that they're not doing too well compared to somebody who's, say, on 40% FiO2. You know that, okay, we may be planning to extubate this person in a couple of days. So it is nice to give ventilator settings in report. If you're in a situation where you just did an emergency intubation and you don't have those settings yet, it is okay to let the oncoming shift know, hey, I didn't get to write them down yet, but let's go into the room and look at them together. That's an easy fix for that. The next question I got is, should I report urine output? Yes, you should. Urine output is going to help with fluid balance. So it's nice to know, okay, during day shift, the patient put out 150 mLs for the 12-hour shift, and during night shift, they put out 600. You want to see that balance. You want to see if urine output is increasing, decreasing, or non-existent, because that could be an emergency situation. We have a question. Do you have a key point you'd like to receive or give in report? Not everybody asks for this, but I like to ask for if the patient had any fevers overnight. In the hospital setting, and especially in ICU, we have a lot of lines and drains and things like that for our patients. So a lot of times having a fever could be the first sign of infection. So one of the things that I always ask for is if the patient had a fever overnight or during that person's shift. Good question. Let's do a quick coffee break. The next question, should every patient have a 12-lead EKG on file? It is nice to have a 12-lead EKG on file. That way you can know the patient's baseline, no problem, the patient's baseline cardiac status. In the hospital setting, you have a patient that comes in for one thing, they're there for a couple days, and all of a sudden everything else starts to happen and starts to change. It's nice if you have a baseline 12-lead EKG, because just 2 days ago, I was working, my patient was sinus rhythm on the monitor, and all of a sudden she started getting this irregular heart rhythm. I did a 12-lead EKG. She was in AFib. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's basically an irregular heart rhythm that a lot of times will need some type of intervention. Thankfully, she was in a stable AFib, so I didn't really need to do much, but we did have to get cardiology on board to make some further recommendations. But long story short, I was able to compare this new EKG to her previous EKG, and we were able to easily spot that change. A lot of times the EKG is completed right on admission, whether it's on the unit or down in the emergency room, but it's definitely a good thing to have, especially for your patients who are 50 years old and older. The next question that I got, what is the most important piece of the neuro section? So the most important piece of the neuro section is definitely just baseline mental status. You want to know if your patient is alert, oriented, confused, baseline dementia, whatever the case may be, or even a withdrawal patient. You want to know what their baseline is. That way, when you go in and you do your assessment, you start asking questions. Welcome, Dance 87. I'm doing well. How are you? You basically want to know, okay, they said that they were alert and oriented, but they're not answering these questions appropriately. Have you ever received report and noticed a needed intervention? Oops, I can't even see the rest of that question. Post that question again for me if you don't mind. I don't know why I can't see it. I told you guys this is my first live on YouTube and I don't know how to get back to the question. So if you could post that question again, I will answer it for you. Um, I'll give you a second to try to do that. Let's see. This is weird. I wonder why it doesn't show me all of the questions. Oh, there we go. Have you ever received, reported, noticed a needed intervention that was not done? Yes, that literally happens all the time. Um, what I like to say is nursing is 24 hours. Thank you. Nursing is 24 hours. So a lot of times you don't get to do everything. You may have a busy day, you may have gotten admission, whatever the case may be, you may not have gotten to do everything that you need to do. So basically, my tip is always just inform that oncoming nurse that you didn't do that intervention. That way they know ahead of time that they need to complete it. That could be wound care changes, maybe a CAT scan, an MRI, maybe just some basic labs, anything like that. Just relay that in report, and the oncoming shift should appreciate you informing them that it didn't get done, and they should be able to get that done on their shift since you're telling them ahead of time. Very good question. Um, and then next question is, what do I say about wounds? So with wound care, that can be very detailed, especially in the trauma setting. Basically, you want to talk about the frequency of dressing changes, any special items or supplies that are needed for those dressing changes, um, if you completed the dressing change or not. So, kind of back to that question. If you were able to get it done, let the shift know, hey, I already did the dressing change, so you don't have to do it unless, of course, it's visibly soiled. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is that if your dressing change is done by the surgeons or the doctor only, that is a good piece of information to relay. That way, nobody gets in trouble for touching a dressing that you shouldn't have changed, because that is a thing sometimes. Um, and also, just if there are any special supplies needed, make sure you notate that or pass that information on so that the oncoming shift is aware of that and how to get a hold of it. So those are basically the most questions that I've received over the last few weeks of giving out nurse shift report information. We'll hang out here for a few more minutes and see if any other questions pop up. Oh, no problem. Thanks for joining. Make sure you guys head over to my link tree. Like I said, I'll leave it down below. Um, so that if you would like one-on-one nurse shift report coaching, you can get that with me. It's virtual, it's quick, it's easy, it's fun. And you can ask any questions that may come up during the session or leading up to the session. We can answer all of those during our coaching. And then you can also head over to the mommanurseshop.com, where I have plenty of resources for all the moms and nurses out there. If you do have any nurse friends, make sure you share this live with them. I'm gonna try later, no guarantees. I'm gonna try later to jump on again and catch a few more people later on tonight. We'll kind of see what the day holds, and we'll try to answer some more questions. But until then, thank you guys for joining the Momma Nurse Nurse Shift Report Coaching or live Q&A. Thanks, Brittany. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.